Shotgun with Charlie.
Riding shotgun refers to the practice of sitting next to the driver in a moving vehicle. The term riding shotgun came around after the time of the stagecoach, when somebody used to sit next to the driver holding a shotgun, in case they ran into bandits. My name is Charlie Cook, and I drive a lot. I like to talk to people while I'm driving, so I interview people in my car while I'm driving. Welcome to Riding Shotgun with Charlie. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Before we get started, I want to let you know that you can buy some Riding Shotgun with Charlie stickers and patches. You can get Gungram stickers as well at ridingshotgunwithcharlie.com on the swag and merch page. And if you want to help get the Stagecoach Across America, that's one thing that you can do. Another thing you can do to get the Stagecoach Across America is... if you're watching the YouTube channel, you should subscribe to the YouTube channel. I've been looking at the analytics, and there are more people that are watching the show, which is awesome, and it's great, and I love it, but they haven't subscribed. So if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, please do. If you'd like to get a Riding Shotgun with Charlie or a Gungram t-shirt, you can do a t-shirt, hoodie, or a mug. You can do that at the Teespring store, which I believe the address is Riding Shotgun with Charlie -creator.spring, and I'll put a link in that below, so please do that. That's how you can help get the Stagecoach Across America. All right, welcome to this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Today we are in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I am here with Rob Beckman from the Firearm Trainers podcast. Rob, it's good to see you.
Good seeing you, Charlie.
We're in free America. We're unquarantined, so we don't have to use
no hand sanitizer.
We don't have to use the Lead Slingers hand sanitizer, but we can if you like.
I'll pass for right now.
All right, we'll save this for drinking afterwards. All right, we're heading to the Mag 40 class. You are going to navigate.
Yep.
And
head left out of here.
We're going to talk with you, and we're going to find out what you do. And
turn left. Then turn left on Northwest.
Turn left and turn left.
Left and left.
Yeah. All right, and we're going to talk to you and find out what you do. Is that a? No, that's not. This is early, isn't it? Is it just? Does it feel early, or is it just me?
It feels a little bit early, but being Eastern time zone, it doesn't quite feel it.
It doesn't feel as early.
I was waking up at 5 o'clock this morning because it's like, yeah, my clock is still on Eastern. Can't get too far off that, or else I'll be in world of hurt come next Tuesday.
I did change the clock in my car and on my watch, which is good. All right, so Rob, how did you get into gun stuff? How did you become? You've been an instructor for quite a while, and you've got the Firearm Trainer podcast. So how did you get into all this?
Long time ago, not going back too far, but yeah, my grandparents used to have a farm. We'd go out there, and there'd be opportunities to take care of groundhogs and other nuisances, and that was kind of the first introduction.
Really?
For it, and it was just, you know, there it is, and you take and you shoot it. I mean, it was just, you know, it was farm life. What do
you do with the groundhog when you're done?
We kind of buried it. Other people eat it, so, you know.
Eat groundhogs?
Yeah, it's actually a squirrel. No, it's
all right, squirrels aren't too bad. I've had squirrel before.
One of the neighbors, after they found out what we were doing, started wanting us to drop off the groundhogs so they could make some squirrel. No, so he could make them. Oh my gosh! Because he was eating them.
That is country life, dude. That is country life.
But I'm a city boy.
Very cool.
Get done with that on the weekends and then drive back home to suburban life.
Nice.
You know, but my formal education with firearms really began when I was in Boy Scouts, because, you know, I was a little kid and they had you know, these Marlin 22 rifles, and you'd go and you'd put a quarter down, get 10 rounds to shoot, and just blast away with it, put another quarter down, blast away with it, and finally it's like, you know, maybe it might be worthwhile to actually learn
Those
you
are
know,
how to do this.
how to
So I'm
shoot
spending all these
things
quarters.
and get a merit badge for it.
Right?
Yep.
That's
and
cool.
then after that went along, and I had some formal education, you know, from the Boy Scouts merit badges. Then I started getting in more into hunting, which, you know, different kind of shooting, because you're not shooting rapidly. You're not trying to, you know, just get something, you know, and exterminate it out of a field, but you're actually, you know, going out, and you got to be, you know,
Precise,
and you got to be safe too, because one thing you realize, you know, the first time you go out hunting, especially I like going out deer hunting, is there really ain't a whole lot of people around you. So if you did something really stupid,
oh yeah, it's all you.
It's you got to be self-sufficient, because if you call for help, half an hour would be a quick response for somebody. It's
gosh.
more, you know, an hour plus type of things. And in some places it probably would be several hours to get there, you know, because, you know, paramedics, EMTs, they're not going to come running through the woods. Not like they're even going to know where you are in the woods.
Right, they're finding out where you are.
Yep, exactly. We're going to be taking a right turn on the north here.
We're going to punch it. This is how we drive in Massachusetts.
Exit right to I-29.
My nephew-in-law used to have a Hellcat.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I kind of like driving my car.
He had on lease for 3 years, and went through like 4 sets of tires.
Ooh, mercy.
Because you can be doing 70 miles an hour and hit it, and it will still smoke the tires.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Insane. I mean, yeah, luck to heaven's like, you got 2 little kids. Why are you doing that? Because it's America.
Rock on, brother. Rock on.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I got this, legit, I got this at the beginning of the pandemic, and I put 42,000 miles on it in the last 15 months.
I got mine, my car, not quite as nice as this, but my car right before the pandemic, and I've only got 30,000 miles on it. And there's days when it just sits my driveway, nothing, because nothing to do. I can do almost 100% of all my work from home.
That's not so bad, man.
No, it's not
so bad. I used to drive a lot for my work. I teach at a bunch of different schools, and on a regular week, I'd easily put 600 miles on my car.
Wow.
But since all of the pandemic has started, I have not been driving. So even though I put 42,000 miles on my car in the last 15 months, I haven't had to go to work.
Been interviews, 42,000 miles worth of interviews. There you go.
Yeah, I've had this past year I did a trip down south. I've done a trip to 4 trips to Illinois, I think, in the Midwest. It's a little crazy.
That can be challenging.
All right. Anyway, so that's how you got into shooting. So your formal education, shooting 10 rounds for a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't show your age or anything either.
No, yeah, considering what 10 rounds cost now. Jeez.
A quarter will get you, hey, you want to see the ammo box? We have ammo. It's going to cost you 50 cents to see that we have ammo. Mm-hmm. Where do things go from there?
Then after, one of the things I got into hunter education, I was always into trying to go along and teach the next generation of hunters. So I'm a hunter education instructor. Okay. And then as I was, you know, teaching people about hunter education and to be safe in the woods, it kind of came up that Ohio adopted concealed carry. And it's like, you know, I could do that.
I can do that too.
It took me a little bit of time to get certified with it, because I had kids. They had, you know, my son was in Scouts, had other things to do on the weekends, but then finally got certified and became a NRA pistol instructor, rifle instructor, shotgun. Cool. Inside and outside the home, all the different certifications. Nice. And then with the NRA, continuing my education, also have gotten out and become a United States Concealed Carry Association training counselor, and also an international law enforcement firearm instructor. So I've got numerous certifications behind me to you know, talk about, you know, whether it's a shotgun, rifle, or a pistol, whether you're in close quarters or you're at, you know, a distance. Be able to use each one of those type of firearms, and then just basic knowledge overall, and continuing on with my education about what makes sense and the different advances in it. One of the things I always like to talk to my student instructors about is they all come in and it's like, hey, I just did 2 tours in Afghanistan, I'm ready to go, or I've got 20 years in law enforcement, I'm ready to go.
Right.
And impress upon them the need to stay current, because I go along and I talk about, hey, 10 years ago striker fires weren't anywhere where they are today.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Glock was around, and Glock was quote unquote tactical Tupperware. I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
But now you go along, you've got the SIG 320 that the military's adopted. You've got the Smith & Wesson MMPs. Everything's gone striker fire. 10 years ago, it was your double action, single action type of SIG and your Beretta 92s. And you go back even further than that, and what were people shooting? They were shooting revolvers.
I will tell you this, I am completely baffled to watch movies from the 1980s that have police in them and they're using revolvers. I'm like, really? We've had the 1911 since, 1911, and they're using revolvers in the 80s? This is after the 1911's been around for 70 years. And the Beretta was...
And they always held 7 rounds to begin with, too. but one of the history thing, the semi-automatics were considered less reliable than revolvers.
Wow. Really? Because of all the jams and stuff?
Well, jams and just the manufacturing process.
Wow.
And then in the 90s, and that's where, revolvers in a lot of cases, this is foreign. Also, when you think about it, think about buying a brand new revolver, brand new gun, and the first thing you got to do is go along and it's like, the trigger won't work, and you got to take it to somebody to work on it. And I've talked to police departments, and they've said when they used to get new revolvers, up to half the guns would have to have a gunsmith go through it and take a little spur of metal off here, or do a little touch up there for it. And you think about in today's world, when we've got the polymer striker fire guns, if it don't work, I'm sending it back.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take it and have some guy work on it. Not to mention all the parts are easily and replaceable.
Yeah. Yeah, it has made life a little easier, hasn't it?
Yep. Well, you can see that too in the modern revolvers that Ruger, Smith & Wesson, Colts come out with.
Right, with the transfer
a lot higher reliability to them. You don't go along and have them where they malfunction.
Right.
50% of them out of the box.
Very cool, man. Tell us about Ohio, the application process. You guys went a couple years ago. It used to be what, 10, 12 hours a class?
Used to be 12 hours.
Went it down to like 10 or something?
Yep. They concealed carry in Ohio it became licensed in 2004, and I say it became licensed because technically Ohio's always had concealed carry, and the reason I say that is because Ohio used to have the prudent man defense, which meant that you could go along and carry a gun any place, anytime. And if you got caught, you just had to go in front of the judge and say, well, any prudent man would have carried a gun, if he was carrying money or if he was in that neighborhood.
That's kind of cool.
And that's how they actually got it overturned, because somebody was walking down the street, not necessarily a terrible neighborhood, but got arrested for concealed firearm. He took it to court and pushed it and said, well, any prudent man would have done that. And the prosecutor's like, yeah, I don't think so. And it's like, okay, but I got 10 people here that'll say they would do the same thing I would do.
Right.
And it's like, wait a minute, who's the prudent man? And that's where the legislature went along and they said, we've really got to make this rock solid so we don't have this kind of situation, because previously store owners carrying cash to the bank, okay, that would make sense. But what happens if you're out by yourself in a not so good neighborhood,
right, or
you're afraid of somebody or you're coming along and mugging you? All those things are a little bit harder to quantify than having $5,000 cash on you every night as you're walking to the bank.
Right.
So 2004, we finally got licensed.
That's cool.
And we're actually working right now in the legislature to try to get constitutional carry. So we'll see later this year if it'll go. But there's quite a few states that have that currently, and
21 states.
Ohio might actually join them.
That's cool. Amanda likes to say Ohio's going to be just before the end. And I was listening to her the other day, and I wanted to type in and say, listen, you're going to get it before Massachusetts does. So you're not at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, I'd probably say that would probably happen.
Tell us about the. I think we might do this actually over the course of the class that we got here. Tell us about the Firearm Trainers podcast.
Firearms Trainers podcast, obviously what I was talking about. Done a lot of different classes and really like to mentor people, go along and being the best instructors they can be. Not everybody's going to be, some world famous instructor. I realize that, but in a lot of cases, people, when you go to a certification class, you get certified on their curriculum. You don't get certified in the business. You don't get certified in the marketing. You don't get to hear and see what new training devices are out there to help students learn how to press the trigger properly or have proper sight alignments, those types of things. So what we try to do in the Firearms Trainers podcast, and it's heavily weighted toward instructors, but to help educate the instructors how they can be the best instructor for their students there is. So some of that is, advances in technology. Some of it is about, hey, if you're going to be advertising out on Google, keep these things in mind. Right. If you're going along and you are dealing with Facebook, social media, how do you go along and advertise a firearm business without going along and put into Facebook jail? Yeah,
I noticed. I did a Utah class recently with a friend of mine, and I put up a map of Utah and the states that accept the Utah permit, and we wanted to boost it because we wanted to try to fill this class. It got rejected. So going into Memorial Day weekend, I put an ad up with the American flag on it, and I said I'm doing classes at a discounted price Memorial Day weekend, and it got approved. But I didn't get any business from it, so I still had to give Facebook $5. This is why I don't like it.
Yep, and that's where there's so much going on with social media. There's so much going on with social media. A lot of times, people go and think that, okay, I've got to advertise on social media, when in some cases the best advertising on social media is just to go along and advertise it on your own newsfeed and have friends share it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because in a lot of cases, they're the audience you want anyway.
Yeah.
There's not too many people out in the middle of nowhere that's going to see your ad like, oh, I'm going to come to Charlie's class this weekend just because, hey, he put a nice American flag up.
Right.
because the odds on those things, literally, it's like 10,000 imprints. You get 100 clicks and maybe one registration.
Yeah.
That's where, unless you're a big company and where you can go along and spend thousands of dollars to get those 10,000 clicks, your likelihood of having success is so lower than you'd like it to be.
Totally. All right, how much time do we have left?
We've got 11 minutes left.
11 minutes. All right. How long have you been doing the podcast?
About 2.5 years now.
2.5 years.
Yep.
Wow.
And the one thing that's really kind of blew me away this year is listener notes. Went along, type in your podcast. I'm in the top 2.5% of podcasts worldwide.
Boom! Congratulations.
And the thing that blew me away for that is Firearms Trainers podcast. It's targeted at trainers. It's a niche podcast. I will never have 10,000 or 100,000 X98 here coming up, right turn. I would never have, a million subscribers, like John Correa with Active Self-Protection has. Because I'll never be able to reach that many instructors. There's maybe over 100,000 instructors, and assuming I can get a hold of every one of them, that would be the top end of being able to do it. But to be in the top 2.5% of podcasts worldwide, that's one of those things where it's like, wow, and it's only 2.5 years been doing it. And the one thing that really is neat that the podcast has gotten to where people know it. They when I've been places, people come up to me and say, hey, I'm such and such, and I became an instructor because of your podcast. You know,
awesome.
your podcast has helped out doing this, and other people, you know, similar to you and John Petrolino, you know, go along and, yeah, hey, I think this would be a great person to have on.
Yeah.
Those first 6 months, we're like, okay, what am I going to talk about this week? We're terrified. Right turn here.
It is until you get a little bit of a reputation going on.
Turn right on
Mm-hmm.
All right, so as we're getting off the highway here, I'm going to say this. I don't know what the statute of limitations is. I guess what I'm really trying to say is I don't know if the South Dakota State Police listen to my show or watch the show, but the speed limit here in South Dakota is 80 miles an hour, and I may have only been going 88.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, like any other place, you get 10 miles over the speed limit, right?
you should be fine. You should be good. You should be good.
It is nice being in South Dakota, free America.
Free America.
Even in Ohio, we're only at 70.
Man, I noticed that too when I was driving out. 77.
Now, can you relate to the back in the 80s and early 90s when everything was 55 miles an hour?
I remember the Sammy Hagar tune. I can't drive 55.
We're driving up here when the speed limit went up to 80. My wife and me, we were saying, can you imagine slowing down to 55 right now?
Oh my
I mean,
God.
it'd be like walking outside.
It's nuts. I was just in the Midwest, and it's interesting when you see cars drive in a big area of flatland. It barely looks like they're moving, and I'm like, dude, it just feels like you're not moving. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, listen, let's talk about the Mag 40 class. So you and I are about to do the Mag 40 class with some of the folks from the Polite Society podcast, and some of the other cool podcasters that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
Massad Ayoob is teaching the class. I've had Massad Ayoob on the show in Florida about a year and a half ago, and you've done some classes with him. I'm nervous as hell, if I can say so. I'm nervous because I got to shoot in front of you and Amanda Suffecool and Charlie Chambers and Robyn Sandoval and Paul Lathrop. That's one reason I'm nervous. I don't know what to expect. Like, it's Mag 40. It's 20 hours of classroom, 20 hours of range time in 4 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I've never taken range with Moss, so yeah. I don't know how that's going to be. I look forward to it from the standpoint. Yeah, we're
going to turn right up here.
Turn right up here at 115.
All right.
But Moss is very engaging as a speaker. The wealth of information he brings is just enormous. And you go along and listen. Yeah, I've done single day classes with Moss before,
yeah,
and it is just amazing how much information you can pack into a day's class, and then to be able to go along and do 4 days with them. I brought lots of paper to write things down, and I'm sure learn quite a bit. From it. Also looking forward to trigger time, because one of the downsides to being an instructor is you don't get that much trigger time.
You don't.
You go along and you help people take and press the trigger, help them go along, get good sight alignment, do all those types of things. But then at the end of the day, it's like, okay,
right, how much?
Everybody else has shot and I haven't shot yet, and I'll shoot off one magazine and they've shot a couple hundred rounds and I'll shoot off 15 rounds. It's like, okay,
15 rounds, one magazine. You hear that, Massachusetts? Yeah, it's always interesting. You take some students out or some clients out, and you go shooting with them, and they're like, "You didn't shoot. Do you want to?" That's okay. I get enjoyment from getting you up and going and getting you on
turn here.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to expect. I heard it's got a little bit of classroom and a little bit of range every day. What gun are you bringing to shoot?
Well, Moss went along and said, bring guns. Okay, with an S on it, okay?
Okay.
So, I've brought Glock 19 Gen 5 MOS, Glock 19 Gen 5, just open sights, and a Glock 34 MOS.
Nice.
So, both with the MOS have Hollow Sun sights on it.
Very cool.
So, they're nice. It's very helpful with aging eyes to be able to go along and be able to sight that, because about 3 years ago I went 2 years and was going back to my optometrist about every 6 months, and they tried bifocals, trifocals, everything to try, because I'm working on a computer, so it's very close during the day, and then I'm trying to also look at sights, and then being a hunter too, I'm like, okay, I got to be able to see something move 100 yards away from me.
Right.
You got Dell's Drive that should be coming right, probably right catty corner to that drive there.
Yeah.
On the right hand side here.
Turn right on Dell's Drive.
Right here.
Woo. All right. Turn off
There you go.
the paved road. All right. Well, listen, we're gonna wrap things up here, because we are at our. I hate saying our final destination, but
we're at the beginning class.
We're at the beginning of class, so this is going to be cool. I think doing a little after action report every morning. I think this will be really cool.
You see how quickly I can spot a deer.
Oh my God, that's awesome! I wish I had the hood cam on. Very cool. All right, we'll do this every time. How can people find you and the Firearm Podcast and your instructing biz?
FirearmTrainersPodcast.com. All our episodes are out there. You can search by topic. So if you want to do social media marketing, you want to do new students, you want to do female shooters, all that's out there. And you can also find me at AmericanDefenseTraining.us. That is my class schedule. And you can see both the instructor classes I'm teaching as well as the student classes.
Cool, man. I'm going to give you these guys. I'm going to give you a set of the Gungram stickers and the Gungram patch.
Great.
I know we're still driving. Those are for ya.
Thank you.
And when you put the sticker someplace, get a picture and tag me, and be a little social media chump. And we will see you guys next time. I'm going to plug all this stuff later, but I'll do it now. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel. Please check out the Second Amendment Foundation, saf.org. You should be a member of them.
I think.
Did we go this way? All right, that guy's going this way, so we're going this way.
Yep, there it is.
All right. Check out the Self-Defense Radio Network. It is all of your pro-freedom podcasts in one place. You can hear shows like the Polite Society podcast. You can also hear Eye on the Target Radio, which is our good friend Amanda Suffecool and her brother Rob Campbell. And we'll get another one of these. We'll talk to you guys soon. All right, day number 2, well, morning number 2, really, with Rob Beckman from the Firearm. Oh my God, the Firearm Trainer Podcast?
Yes.
All right.
You got it right.
Whew. We just did day number 1 yesterday of a MAG 40 class. A MAG 40 is the Massad Ayoob group. It's a 40-hour long class. It's actually being taught by Massad Ayoob himself. And we're going to talk about what we learned yesterday and how yesterday went. So, how was yesterday for ya?
Long.
Oh, okay, long day. It was
a long day.
We were only at the range for 11 hours.
Yep.
We got there at 8 in the morning and we left at 7. That's a long day.
Long day. Working lunch and working all the way through it.
Oh my God.
Lot of information. I mean, from what I thought I knew, it was correct. I just didn't have the depth that Massad brings to the table, and that's where it was just mind-blowing to be able to go along. And he was writing off the cases that he was involved in, as well as the landmark cases that set certain standards and different things like that. And that's where it was just like, okay, wow. I mean, I think I was showing you, I did almost a quarter of a notebook, handwriting notes.
Oh my God.
And, I mean, it was constantly writing notes.
We had to go out last night to get a couple more notebooks.
Yep, and I got an extra pen today too,
and an extra pen just in case you run out of ink. It was really cool. I wasn't sure. You said you've taken a class with him, and you did a one-day class. One day, no range or anything. Yeah, I haven't done any classes. I've certainly read some of his books and articles and seen videos and everything.
Exit to I-29 North.
Oh, right. And so a lot of the stuff. It's when you take a class, they always have like the warm-up period, and the warm-up period is really to assess for the instructor to assess who can handle a gun safely, who's doing things in a way that can be molded and formed and changed, and I hate to say fixed, but things that can be fixed, and you want to make sure that somebody's shooting on target and they can handle the gun properly.
Right.
And yesterday seemed to be, for me, it was one of those. Oh, I've heard him talk about this before. Oh, I've read this in The Gravest Extreme. Oh, I read this in this article. He talked about this. He talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good to get that on the first day, because then I'm like, oh, what's next?
Yeah, if we've gone that deep on day one, how deep are we going to get in day 2, 3, and 4?
Right. And it was nice. Paul Lathrop and Susan Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast are the ones that are hosting the show, and it was it's great to hang out with them, and they're wonderful hosts.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to take the class with friends, which is always cool. I wasn't sure what to expect, so we had a couple hours of like an hour-long safety briefing about stuff and why we do things the way that we do them, and here's here's a story, and here's a story, and here's why you do this, and here's why you do that. And then we got to go to the range and do some shooting, which was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess being in free America, I was not expecting to only do magazines with 6 rounds at a time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they said for the revolver folks. So I'm not sure if that's something that they usually do, or if it's something that they do because of the ammo shortage that we have going on.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think I went a little bit less than 100 rounds yesterday, if I count it right. So it wasn't a real lengthy shooting.
I'm going to say it was definitely under 100 rounds.
Yeah, but it's definitely good baseline skill assessment.
Absolutely.
For everybody, and everybody was shooting well, and all have different things that we can tweak to get better, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool that we go through the different stances, and we do 6 shots untimed, and then 6 shots.
Continue straight for 13 minutes to exit.
Oh my God, was it 6 shots in 8 seconds?
6 shots in 8 seconds.
And then we do 6 shots in 6 seconds?
No, 6 as fast
as we can. As fast as possible, that's what it is, right?
So it was accuracy, having timed, and then just basically, how fast can you get them on target?
Yeah, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool.
Well, it allows them to see, how well are you recovering from your shots, and because there are times when you can be extremely precise and take your time, but you take minutes to do 6 shots. And when you go along and start putting time to it, you start realizing, okay, if they were really in a defensive shooting encounter, how well would they do? Right.
Yeah, are you able to get your shots on a torso-sized target?
Mm-hmm.
There's you were just saying this, the stuff that is most amazing is the legal stuff that we don't get, and it's certainly not covered in a beginning student class. Because I don't know how it is for you, but I have a lot of students that take the class because they have to take the class to get their license.
Yep. And state requirements.
Yeah, they made the state requirements, and then that's about it. And they're like, well, like, what? I love it when they say, so if a guy's breaking into my house, I can't just shoot him. Not really. Well, I had a friend that's an old cop, and he said, well, I could shoot a guy outside of the house and drag him back in. And I always say, I don't watch CSI, but I'm pretty sure that's tampering with evidence. So it's
that would be a problem.
Not a good call.
As they say, it's bad to start off with one leg in the jail cell to begin with.
Right.
Everything else might be right, but when you start doing that, you're gonna end up with some trouble.
It's gonna be a problem. Yeah, there's a lot of legalese in this. And I think he said it was about 65% class time.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a few hours in the morning, and then we went out and shot. And then, like you said, we had a working lunch, and then just going through all these lectures that he's got.
One thing I really took away that was kind of astonishing is Moss went along and said that most lawyers, even defense lawyers, don't spend more than like a half day on self-defense law. And here Moss is going through and doing a deep dive into the topics and such, and you can really see where if you don't have the right defense attorney that has done a deep dive like this, you could be in a world of hurt in situations like that, because he brings up all those situations to where it was a legal shoot, but if you go about and look at it incorrectly,
Right.
Then all of a sudden you are charged with murder because they look at it differently. The point that he spent probably close to an hour talking about shooting somebody in the back and how easily that would happen. In an actual gunfight that was very dynamic and people moving and shooting and things like that, because shooting in the back is by the lateral, the midpoint of the body.
It's in my notes.
It's in my notes, yes. But there's a lateral point that basically going down from your ears down to your ankles. That anything behind that line is considered in the back. Anything otherwise is in the front.
Right. It's like the front north equator.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. And he showed that you can do, what is it, a quarter turn in a quarter second?
Yeah.
I think when he turned it was faster than I, because he's a lot smaller than you and I. But you turn really quickly, and you can have your gun pointed at your bad guy, and he decides to take a turn, and action meets reaction. So his action turns and has him running, and then you squeeze the trigger, and you just shot a dude in the back.
Yep. Or as he said, you go along and somebody's presenting a threat, you're pressing the trigger, and in that trigger press time, the person decides that it's time to leave. Then they turn, and then your gun goes off, and everybody looks at it and says, "Hey, you shot him in the back." When in reality, he was coming. The bad guy was coming at you when you pressed the trigger. But by the time the bullet actually left the barrel, he'd already turned. Yeah. And that's where you get into this quarter second, half second type of turns. And put it this way, culturally, we all know you shouldn't shoot people in the back. I mean, that movies have it,
we get to
everything,
cowboy stuff, yeah.
But at the same time, you hear somebody do that and they're like, oh, that's got to be really bad. Well, unless of course you can go along, dissect it, and even there with the information he dove into on shooting in the back was not only how long it takes for somebody to spin, but then he started going along and doing the perception about how long does it take you to perceive that something has changed, and you've got to change what you're doing. So you got to perceive it, you got to comprehend it, and then you've got to go along. Basically, brain's got to issue those new orders to the fingers, toes, whatever you're going to be doing with, and that's where it started going, where it's 3/4 to a second and a half, and all of a sudden, if you could educate a jury along those lines, then you could very easily go along and say, yes, that person was not doing anything wrong. It was justified. But if you don't, then all of a sudden somebody goes, well, obviously it was a cowardly act because it was, they shot him in the back while they were running away. And that's where you go along and get two sides of the coin. Yeah.
Another thing I thought was interesting is, I always refer to it as the my cousin Vinny defense. Mm-hmm. Is the things that you say, because if you're, I don't know what the right word for it is, when you're talking to the police, if they audio recorded versus video recorded, and I always bring up in my cousin Vinny, what does Ralph Macchio say at the beginning when they're arrested? I shot a man, and then they get him in court. What did he say? I shot a man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, there
takes
we go.
it from being a question to being a statement.
Exactly. I bring this up to folks when I say if you're pulled over and you have to tell the police that you have a firearm on you. I always tell them, I say I have a license to carry and I'm currently doing so. How would you like me to proceed? I said try to stay away from the term weapon. And as NRA certified instructors, they don't want us to use the term weapon. Mm-hmm. But I said even try not to say gun, because if you're talking to the person if you're talking to the police officer on the driver's side and you say, officer, I have a license to carry, and then his partner comes over and then you say, and I have a gun on me, all the second guy hears is, and I have a gun on me, and then he pulls
that's kind of a trigger word for him.
Right, he pulls his gun out and ruins everybody's day.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be careful how you say these things.
Yep.
So
context, who and when you say things, is extremely important.
Yeah, it really is. So today, I think we're starting off in the range. I think the weather's going to be hot. We've got a couple 4 cases of water back here, and it's going to be hot. So I think we're starting off shooting.
Yeah, we're going to start on the range.
So that'll be cool. This range has some nice shade to it.
And who would have thought we'd come all the way north here into South Dakota and we're at 90+ degree weather?
I know.
I left Ohio at 53 degrees, okay? And that's a lot further south. than even Massachusetts is, you know?
Yeah, I know. The Massachusetts weather's been it's been like a lottery ticket. It's like 57, and then it's 46, and then it's 82, and 67, and it's just, wait a second, man. And then you get here, you're like, it's gonna be in the 80s. You're like, oh man, 90s.
But the good thing is, I don't find the heat being as oppressive.
Not as impressive at all.
Humidity's definitely not, I don't know what the humidity is right now, but even yesterday when we were walking outside, it was like, yeah, this is kind of refreshing. Versus down in Cincinnati in the middle of summer, you walk outside 90 degrees and you start sweating all over.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I went to Gun Rights Policy Conference in Phoenix a couple years ago, and everyone, I've heard everyone say, "Oh, it's a dry heat." It's still freaking hot.
Like sticking your head in an oven is what I've
But you're outside. I've got a T-shirt on. I got a suit jacket on, and I'm like, it's 87 degrees out. It doesn't feel that bad. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, listen, let's wrap things up for today, and we will have another one of these reviewing today, tomorrow. Does that make sense? Because they're watching this. Everyone's watching this.
We'll do day 2 tomorrow.
We'll do day 2 tomorrow. All right, very cool. Thanks for watching this section. Stay tuned for day 2 tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, welcome to morning number 3, a review of day number 2 of the Mag 40 class. We're all set. Let's go. Of the Mag 40 class in Sioux Fall, South Dakota, and I am back here with Rob Beckman from the Firearm Trainers podcast. Let's talk about day number 2 of the Mag 40 class. I thought it was nice that we started off at the range in the morning.
It was definitely
because
good.
It got hot.
It's not as muggy as down south hot, but it definitely, you could tell, was getting very warm by noon.
I thought it was always cold up here in South Dakota. Like, they have 3 winters, 3 seasons. They have pre-winter, winter, post-winter, and then summer. We're definitely in the summer part.
Yeah, definitely. And,
all right.
And we've got up to 93 on my car yesterday that I saw. So
I got up to 92 while we were driving.
It's supposed to be up 97 today, according to the weather forecast. Tomorrow it's supposed to be cooler. It's only supposed to be 93 tomorrow. That makes you feel any better.
So this is what I did. I wore my black shirts for the first 2 days, and I'm wearing non-black shirts for the other 2 days.
Well, I had the polos, so I'd look all nice and fancy and stuff, and then I went down to this. It's like, yeah, I can go along and help out my friends,
right
down there in Cincinnati, and wear a couple of their shirts while I'm up here, because it's going to be warm.
It's going to be a scotch, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we spent some time in the range, and I don't even know what we did. We did so much shooting, I forgot.
Well, we did some of the grip techniques.
Oh yeah, we talked about different grips.
Yep.
That was pretty cool, pretty interesting.
Yep. Trying different ways of doing things. Also, Moss went along and everybody there can shoot. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we're hitting the A zone on the target and doing good groups. But when Moss comes up and tells you, hey, you need to tighten up this finger or do this, I actually found it improved my shooting. I mean, again, not from 6 inches down to 3 inches, but more about from 2 inches down to an inch and a half type of thing. There's still a lot that I can work on to improve that, but that was one of the biggest takeaways I took away from the range work yesterday. Is Moss wasn't just like hold it tighter. It was take your finger and take your pinky finger and do this and do this a little bit more.
Yeah.
Really good. And then even with the wedge technique, that helped out.
I thought the wedge technique was a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
Exit right 2.
Until I jammed my finger in there, and it's like, that's actually helped me out a little bit.
Yeah.
For somebody with big hands to be able to get a wedge in there and really make it solid, it's like, that's something I hadn't tried before.
Yeah, no kidding. So I thought it was, one of the things that we did was shoot with our eyes closed. And of course people freak out that you're not looking at your target. No, you're lining your sights up, you're looking at the target, you're closing your eyes, and you're just really focusing on the trigger squeeze and making sure that your gun goes right back to where it was after the recoil. And I think your target was super small. Mm-hmm. Right? Like all your shots, I think I know at one point, I think it was the blindfold, or the blind one with their eyes closed, where it only took 3 of the.
No, it was when Moss was going along and doing the trigger press, where we were just focused on the sight alignment. That was the one where he, I got it down to three pasties to cover. 3 pasties. Let's call it tape instead of pasties. Pasties can come in different sizes. True. Yeah. Yeah. Well, by the end of the shooting, I know your target was hard to go along, paste up the middle there, because it was just being chewed out completely.
We were tearing up the middle of our target, which is cool. Mm-hmm. So doing the blindfolded was really interesting. I listened to this book on tape a bunch of years ago. I was getting into archery, and there's this book that's called Zen in the Art of Archery. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I can't remember who wrote it, but this guy talks about how he was a writer and his wife was a professor or something. I don't know. They went to Japan for a year, and he decided to take archery lessons. And so he studied with this archery master in Japan. And the Japanese gentleman was telling him, he's like, listen, this is how you do this. You have to do it the same way every time. And at one point, in one particular chapter, they talk about how you focus on the target, you focus on the bullseye, and you do everything the same way. So what they did was they went into the room, they turned the lights off, and the instructor shot a bullseye. They put the light on, so it was a bullseye. They turned the light off. He split the arrow like Robin Hood in the dark. So I'm like, oh, this is totally what it's like. Like just focus on everything. Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool. I think the reason I don't put a picture of the target in this. What I had to when we did the front sight above the rear sight, when you're looking for different sight pictures. What did he call? He didn't call it. It wasn't the flash sight.
It was the vulture sight picture.
Was it the vulture sight picture? Okay. So you get the front sight. The front sight's above the rear sight. And as soon as you do that, then you squeeze the trigger. And my target ended up with all of the shots in a straight line.
Looked like a cash register receipt, just,
totally.
About a foot long, but they were all in one line.
They're all in one line, like a CVS receipt. Nothing was off to the side, and and I'm like, when do I squeeze? When do I press the trigger? Like, I'm not sure when, but they were all lined up, and that was pretty wild. Mm-hmm. That was pretty wild.
Yep, and you got the little barcode at the bottom to be able to call about your customer experience.
Oh my god, that was funny. Mm-hmm. That was funny. And the range time was good yesterday. Mm-hmm. Range time was good. I think we ended up spending about 4 hours on the range.
Yep, that was about 4.
Yeah, up until lunchtime, and then we went back in for lectures. Yeah, this is a really good class. Mm-hmm. It's a really good class. With the lectures we talked about yesterday, I hate saying I forget what they were, but there was a lot to it. I know we hit this yesterday. There really is a lot to knowing how to protect yourself and articulate what you know.
Yeah, the CYA part of it. Can you articulate? Why you did it, where you did it, and when you did it?
Right. Appropriately,
because all those are going to be factors in your defense.
Yeah, it really is. And just going up and saying, well, I saw these guys carry a gun. I saw this. I saw an ad that said this is the greatest gun for me to carry, and that's what I decided. That's not going to buy it. Mm-hmm. It's not going to cut it.
Well, I thought the one topic where he was talking about myth, self-defense myth, was useful, because we've all heard them before, and to have Moss to go along and say, hey, if somebody throws out that, this kind of argument that you're using extra special dangerous ammo type of thing, i.e. hollow points to most of the world, you can go along, counter that by going along and specifying the reason why people do it, or why law enforcement agencies do it, and the physics behind it and such, which shoots it down, which makes, instead of you looking like a bloodthirsty shooter, it makes you look like a responsible person, because you want to make sure that you got it done with the fewest number of shots, that you didn't put anybody else in danger with it, and quick, simple, and humane ability to do that. So that was, again, the arguments that he has, and the one thing that's just mind-boggling too is he stands up, hands-free, no notes or anything else. And he's rattling off the cases. He's rattling off the
dates,
people.
The people. It's amazing.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we don't know for sure if they were all right, but I would venture to say he's probably in the 90+% correct on all that stuff, because we've been writing it all down.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really cool stuff. It was interesting too when he talked about using hand loads, and he tried to. I thought it was cool that he made a distinction between reloading and hand loading. Mm-hmm. And hand loading is more particular. More exact, because you're checking every cartridge and saying, all right, everything's cool, and just cranking out with the reloader, and just going through and whatever, having a beer and working on the loads.
Yeah. When you go along and I reload, you go and you're trying to build the best possible ammunition for your gun.
Right.
And for him to walk through why that's not necessarily the best thing for a self-defense situation, because the big key factor there is you've got to be able to reproduce exactly what happened there. And there's no way that you can go along, or your lawyer can go along and say, without any doubt that this round is the same as that round,
right? Because
that might have been in between, when you went and took a bathroom break and came back. Or was that batch from yesterday, and today it's going to be slightly different, versus factory ammunition has they go back and they've got lot numbers, and they can see exactly who, what, when, where, how it's done, and that was very interesting to do that, because it's crazy as it sounds. A lot of what he's talking about is creating your defense before you need your defense.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's not going along and saying, hey, I did everything right, now figure it out. It's going along and saying, I did everything right, and oh, by the way, got this and this and this and this, and make it to where any prosecutor would actually go along and say, yeah, there's no kink in their armor where we can go along and get them on, unjustified use of force.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting part of it when you start thinking about it.
Totally. So I talked to him yesterday, and I said I felt stupid after I said this, because I would, he's outside and getting some fresh air, and I still am nervous going up and talking with him, even though we've been with him for 2 days straight. So I'm like, hey, I'm really enjoying this, really getting a lot out of it. I said, I've read a number of your books and a lot of articles and everything, and I said, everything that you've talked about in the books and the articles are things that you've talked about. And he's like, well, the next 2 days, we're going to get into stuff that I don't write about, so people don't know about it. I'm like, crap, that means we're going to take a lot of notes.
I've got 17 pages of notes so far. 17 pages. 10 from the first day, 7 from the next day, and that's front and back of those 17 pages.
Man.
And so, you get a little bit of writer's cramp.
A little bit. And you're writing stuff so fast.
Right turn.
Okay. All right. I ended up, my handwriting's bad anyway. So, having to write stuff and having to spell things and then having to decipher it in a couple of weeks is not going to be pretty.
Yeah, spelling it is the real challenge.
I really hope spelling doesn't count on the test.
I don't know if you heard a few of the people that were using computers and typing away. The hard part they have is autocorrect.
Autocorrect all these Italian words. Or not Italian words, these
the Latin words.
The Latin words.
And all of a sudden, it changes to something else. Like, no, we really want that, but I got to type all this in there because he hasn't stopped yet.
Oh my gosh. All right, well, listen, we are going to wrap it up for this section. We're going to day number 3, and we'll have a new segment for you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. All right, welcome back. It is Charlie from Riding Shotgun with Charlie and Rob Beckman from the Firearm Trainers Podcast. And what's the name of your company too?
It's American Defense Training.
All right, because sometimes people call me out they're like, hey, you don't push your gun instructing business. I'm like, yeah, I want to push the Riding Shotgun with Charlie. But
multiple hands in multiple places.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping your hands in all the pots. So let's recap day number 3 of Mag 40 here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Yesterday we started the day off with about 4 hours of range time, and we did some non-traditional shooting positions, I think is a good way to say it, and I might snag some pictures.
Our yoga exercise, I call them, you know.
Right.
Some of those positions I haven't been in for a long time.
I think it might be why my back hurts today. So yeah, a non-traditional position, which was cool. And then the other thing I thought was really good is we started to reach out and touch someone a little bit.
Yep, we got back to 15 yards.
Yeah, and 15 yards is not something that people would often think of in the self-defense situations, because we always tell our students that we get the rule of 3s: 3 shots, 3 feet, 5 seconds, or 4 shots, 4 feet, 5 seconds. Great. So that is that's something that's interesting to have to go out to go out that far. I think we're good for directions.
Okay.
We just got to get some air in one of the tires. Oy, oy, oy. But that'll be fine. So yeah, so we went back to 15 yards, and the interesting thing is, people are like, well, it's are you really going to end up shooting? You know, was it 45 feet? Are you going to shoot somebody at 45 feet and call it self-defense? And you know, the great thing about Mass is whenever he says, you know, well, you're never going to do this, he's always got a court case that says,
court case is a very poignant example of when you may want to do that.
You need to do that, yeah.
You know, the active killer, you know, at a school or workplace, you're not going to walk up, you know, beside them, you know, 3 yards and say, okay, now let's shoot it out. You're going to go along, and as soon as you got a safe shot, and take it.
You're going to want to take it, yeah. I did a show with Claude Werner. I don't know if you know Claude.
Yeah, I know Claude.
And I did something with him, and he says, you know, he thinks outside of the box, and he says, you know, people think that the worst case scenario, you know, is a 6'4" guy that's, you know, 350 pounds of muscles and Glocks on his hands and machetes in his hips. He's like, that's not the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is there's a guy that's got his gun to the head of your daughter, and you have 1 shot to take. And you're like, ooh, never thought of that.
Yep, well, that's the same thing Moss was talking about when it comes to carrying extra ammunition and such. You know, guns malfunction, magazines malfunction, and having a backup becomes very useful. And if you're there with a partner, it also, you know, you can give that partner you know, your second gun. Yeah. So it's a force multiplier.
Yep, you're muling your gun for that. Yeah, so that was really cool. That was it was a good range time, and you know, shooting from the crouch position was kind of hard, and then we did some non-dominant shooting, which was good too. So it was a little shaky. Always a little, I don't want to say it's shaky or strange, but it was good.
It's different, and then on top of that, we were back a little bit further when we were doing that. Yeah, we were doing that at 10 and 15 yards as well. So again, it really has you focus on the proper, you know, hand, you know, squeezing it, proper trigger press.
It's, I mean, it's all side alignment trigger squeeze. You know, doesn't matter where you are or where you're at.
Yeah, or what awkward position you might be in.
Right. No matter how much
squatting down, non-dominant hand, and you know, balancing on 1 foot.
Right.
It's like, yeah.
No matter how much your back is going to hurt the next day. Yeah. All right. So today is our exam.
It's going to be fun.
We have a shooting qualification that we have to do, and we're going to get a practice run of that this morning, and we're going to have some warm-up shooting, and then some going to run through what is on the shooting exam, and then we do the shooting exam. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. And it's anyone that's taken one of the classes with Mass knows he's got a little not really a side bet, but
he's got a prize.
There's a prize. This is a prize, and I've seen people do this. I've seen people you know, post pictures of Mass with their target and a signed dollar bill, and I'm like, oh man, are we gonna have one of those pictures today?
Fingers crossed.
Man, let's hope so. So it should be pretty cool. And then what we'll do is after we're done with today, will we'll do a little recap after we're done as we go back to the hotel.
Sounds like it's gonna be a fun day.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be a cooler day too, which is
right, because yesterday
always
was
great.
only record-breaking 99 degrees out.
But it's gonna be 97, so it's cooler.
Oh, sure.
in South Dakota in June,
Right.
we're almost in the triple digits.
Unbelievable. So some of the other lectures that we had yesterday were things that I swear to God, Mass looked right at some of us and he says, this is stuff that you guys should not talk on YouTube about. So all right, welcome back to Riding Shotgun with Charlie. We are still with Rob Beckman from the Firearm Trainers podcast. We got a UTV on the road in front of us. This is how they roll in
South Dakota.
We've just wrapped up a Mag 40 class.
40 hours worth of training.
40 hours worth of training in 4 days. At first, I thought the day was never going to end. And we got to the end. I'm like, oh my God, this can't be it, can it?
Yeah, the day went fast. The first 2 days seemed to drag a lot more.
They really did.
But today was the qualification, and that's where I think there was a lot more excitement about seeing how well everybody would do.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of how well people did, so we did, we shot, what did we end up shooting? We ended up shooting non-dominant hand at 4 yards. We shot dominant hand.
We did single-handed non-dominant, single-handed dominant.
There we're going. At 4 yards, then we went back to 7 yards?
10 yards.
10 yards.
10 yards. And then we shot the 6 and 6 in any position we wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we did do 7.
I think it was 7.
Yeah, because we did the crouching.
The crouching and
kneeling.
10 yards.
Yeah.
Or the barricade, as they called it. That is where I lost a couple of points. I was doing okay. I lost a couple points. I lost 1 point on the first ones. My dominant hand, single hand, I had a small little smiley face. Right, like close.
No cash register receipt this time?
No cash register receipt.
I know, I threw one on, I think it was 7 yards, and it's like, oh gosh,
man.
Really?
Yeah.
Just barely out, but.
And then I lost a couple at the squatting, and then when we got back to 15 yards, doing the Weaver, doing the Chapman, and doing the other one. That's where I lost it, and our team would have won as I was the team captain. I don't know how I got voted the team captain. I thought I should have been voted the class clown.
You just didn't move as fast as everybody. Who's going to be the team captain? And we all pointed to you.
Right. So that was fun. That was a lot of fun, man. That was a lot of fun. I got a lot out of the class. I want to go home and I'm going to go home and review our notes and review all the stuff that we shot and form that into some sort of curriculum to give people when they want to do some live firing.
Yep, there's a lot of good stuff there.
All right, so I'm going to say this. I shot a 286, and I'm going to put me and my target here. And you shot
297.
297.
3 shots out of the A zone.
3 shots would have gotten you an autographed $1 bill from Massad Ayoob. And you were the overall best shooter got a 298.
Yep.
So you were
just about there.
Right.
Just about there.
Right.
I was hoping, but yeah, things happen.
They do.
And the thing that's amazing, Massad went along and shot a perfect 300 with open sights on a 1911. That's pretty impressive. I mean, I would have been happy if I would have gotten, I was shooting a Glock, 9mm red dot. I'd been happy if I'd gotten 300 with that. But to go along and have Massad at his age, and Massad also doing open sights with a 45, it's like, yeah, that's impressive, Massad. I give it to you.
This is what I love. Like, he still seems to be in the. I do think there's two schools, and we've had the Jeff Cooper school, with a 1911, and then Massad Ayoob came around. So it's either, to me, for the longest time, people have been one of the two. You know what I mean? Like, these are the two godfathers of
modern pistol craft.
Yeah. And seeing him shoot a 1911 makes me think, oh man, how come we're all not shooting 1911s? Or are we so, I don't know, arrogant's not the right word, but are we arrogant enough that nobody wants to shoot a 1911 anymore? You know, I remember, I don't know about you, I remember the first time I held, you were on guns for a long time, but I didn't get into shooting until I was 30. The first time I held a 1911, I was like, oh my God, this is a man's gun. And I'm like, this is
all
what
metal.
It feels like. It's this heavy piece of machinery, and this is total badass. And I will never forget the first 5 shots that I took on it. We had a steel plate set in the shape of pinballs. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is that one of those 1911s? He's like, yeah. I'm like, is this the Doug Caney Smith & Wesson? The guy's like, yeah. I'm like, you want to try it? I'm like, oh, yeah. So I hit 5 plates with 5 shots. And I'm like, I'm never going to shoot this well again. I'm going to hand the gun back to you, and I'm done. And legit, that was 6 years before I got a 1911. Yeah.
Oh, they're sweet guns. Very, very sweet.
Yeah. I was telling Mass, I want to come back and I want to shoot it on my J-frame. I think that would be really cool. I'm wondering if they'd make, everything was done in 6-round strings, and I wonder if they make a concession and bring it out of 5 rounds. Or if I have to bring my
speed loader.
The speed loader, or just bring the K. I've got a K-frame Model 19 with a 6-inch barrel though. So that would be really cool.
It would be cool. It would be cool to go along to this course of the revolver.
Yeah. He was. I was talking with him at the end, and he said that not a lot of people do it, but he said usually when they do, they shoot better than the semi-autos. I'm like, all right, that's what I want to do. You know, and I play all these games in my head. I'm like, okay, next year do a Mag 40, do a couple of other classes with a J-frame. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, he talked about the Mag 80 course, and it's like that would be a fun one to go to.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Getting into more long guns and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he said it's a lot more shooting too. Shooting from weird positions, and one-handed stuff, and non-dominant hand stuff, and all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah, there's lots of, as go along and say, there's a lot more that you can take with Moss. I hope he's around for a lot longer, because he's turning 73 next month. Yeah. And he's getting up there.
He's getting up
Still
there.
Amazing to see him shoot. And teach, and like we've been saying about recalling all the dates and cases and different things like that for the last 50 years in his career.
It's amazing. It really is. All right, what are some other takeaways from the class from the week?
One of the big ones that I thought was really great. Obviously, you and I, we've trained other people. We've got a high proficiency of shooting to begin with. We edged up, a couple fractions. Yeah. But some of the newer shooters, seeing how they improved, that is always really, really neat to see, because you can see Liberty. She came in pretty new to pistol shooting overall, not shooting in general, but pistol shooting. First organized class, I think she said that she took.
I think so, yeah.
Not really good groups, and she ended up with a 280.
Right.
And really good grouping. Really good grouping.
All right, so the brand new girl got a 280 and I got a 286.
But it gets harder as you get up there,
Yeah, all right, I got one.
Well, she had 20 out of the A zone at least. You had less than 20.
I did have less than 20.
That's why you got to look at it.
I did have 2 that were in the D zone.
Ooh,
that was a sinking feeling. All I needed to do was to do better than Amanda Suffecool. That's all I needed to do. And you ready for this? 287 for her. She had 287, and there was one round that we talked about that was questionable on the -1 side. It was on the. I think she took it as a 0, but I think she gives us a down 0. But it could have been on the -1, so we could have been tied. She was the only person I was really competing against. So you had a great score. You had 297. Neil Weidner, he got a 296, and Robyn Sandoval got a 290.
I think. Yeah. Shot really good.
The coolest one was Paul Lathrop. He's had some health issues, and he was not around very often because of these health issues and because it was record-breaking heat. And he shot a 272. Yeah, I think it was
277.
277. Right? 277.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's pretty incredible as well. And I know he's been through the class a few times, but
the ability to shoot it and everything, he was extremely happy with that.
He wasn't doing any, he would, when we were doing the range sessions in the morning, he would shoot a little bit, and then he wouldn't shoot, and then he would go home and get some rest, and come back at lunch, go home and get some rest. So, he's been through the class before. I don't want to say he doesn't have to sit around for the legal stuff, but he was around a little bit for the range time, did not put a lot of range time in, and when he did put it in, it kind of kicked his butt a little bit.
Yeah, well, and legitimately, he hasn't, been shooting for a couple months.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
So, he's gone from, shooting sometime last year to all of a sudden, having medical issues and everything.
Yep.
But he did a really great job.
He did an awesome job.
And he did a great job hosting us too. I mean, he was the whole reason we were having the class up here in Sioux Falls. Paul organized it. So he did. Both Paul and Susan did a great job as hosts, and I know we all enjoyed it. Moss said it was great from his perspective, and it's great 4 days.
It was a great 4 days. So yeah, we gotta give a big shout out and show appreciation to Paul and Susan Lathrop. Paul is the host of the Polite Society podcast, and he is the deputy director of new media at the Second Amendment Foundation. And he's when his health allows him, he puts on shows every day. He puts a show on. He does a half-hour daily bullet, and he does a weekly bullet on Saturdays. And then Wednesday nights he does the Armed Society, and Monday night he does the Polite Society podcast, and then on Sundays he's been running the video for the Eye on the Target radio with Suffecool and Rob Beckman. So and they were great hosts. I can't wait for a class reunion.
Yeah, I know.
All right, listen, how can people find you and the Firearm Trainers podcast?
You can find my training schedule at AmericanDefenseTraining.us, and you can follow the Firearm Trainers podcast at FirearmTrainingPodcast.com. Or on your whatever you listen to for your podcast downloads. Available on iTunes and Google Play, as well as other Stitcher and all those.
Do you get? I get the reports from Stitcher every month. You know how many listens I have on Stitcher?
How many?
0.
Wow.
Yeah, 0. That's because people watch the video, John Petrolino. They don't listen to the show. They watch the show.
Don't worry, John. My wife didn't know there was a video until I told her to.
Right. Is that really Charlie from Writing Shotgun with Charlie? If you watched the show, you would see this. But no. All right, listen, folks. Thanks for watching this episode of Writing Shotgun with Charlie. Please make sure you subscribe to the Writing Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel. If you've not, I know that a lot of people are watching it on YouTube that have not subscribed, so I do need you to subscribe for that. To that. You can also watch the show on Gunstreamer and on the OpsLens app. You can listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio. You need to check out the Self-Defense Radio Network at sdrn.us. You can also donate to the Citizens' Right to Keep and Bear Arms at ccrbka.org, I believe is what it is. And Rob, thanks for being on the show, man. This has been great. I love hanging out with all of our 2A friends. I was telling one of the guys that I'm actually going to film heading out to Kansas and Nebraska, or Nebraska and Kansas to film some shows. He's like, oh my God, you know so many people. I'm like, yeah, I guess I do, don't I?
And I appreciate you driving this week too. It saved me from having to worry about getting in the car every day and such. So
your wife is welcome as well.
Yeah, I'm sure my wife appreciates having a car to drive around.
Yeah, she doesn't want to be stuck here. I mean, stuck in the hotel. All right, we'll see you guys next time.